All right, welcome back to the Lovecraft eZine podcast, where we talk about cosmic horror and weird fiction and regular horror and, you know, all these little things that make our life better. So, yeah, I'm Mike Davis. Let's do introductions
Can I go first,
with
Mike?
Matt being the last one to introduce himself would be great.
Come on, Pete. I'm going to be going off the road here in a minute.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, guys. I can't stick around for much of this, but I do have a book to give away as a prize. It's the one I'm reading on this trip. It's called Last Road to the Backwoods. There's a vague Lovecraftian sensibility of something evil lurking in the woods, but I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know if it's good. So if you want to win, just I'll put a note up in the Facebook group later, but send an email to ezineprizes@gmail.com and put backwoods in the subject heading. We'll draw a winner in like 6 or 8 weeks, and it could be you.
Well, is it good so far?
You know what? I like the idea behind it. I think the writers are not very experienced.
Okay.
So there's a lot of there's a lot of tell, not show.
Yeah.
Note that Matt is reading the book while he's driving and doing the podcast, so you don't know if he's actually going to finish it.
Fair enough.
I mean, there's multitasking and then there's multitasking, Mark, right?
Look, I'm just driving into Fergus Falls, Minnesota for the week.
We're just happy to have you here, Matt. I think I speak for all of us.
Dusting snow, it's great.
22?
Yep.
Wow, it's only 62 here. A little bit chilly. So, yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Matt.
Right.
Are you leaving us now?
I'll leave in a minute.
All right. Well, good night and good luck.
Thanks. See ya.
Yeah. Well, before we get to the rest of the introductions, let me just talk about the Patreon briefly. If you're not a Patreon, this is what keeps us doing this. If it wasn't for the Patreon, we couldn't do the podcast or anything else. So I really appreciate.
I thought it was the blackmail.
All of you who are. Well, you can't have just one stream of income, Pete. You need more than one.
Mike. Sorry, Mike. Could you just kick me out, please?
Oh, I've been waiting to hear that for 10 years. There we go.
See ya.
Oh, it says report to Zoom. All right, see you, Matt. There we go. That was a lot of fun, kicking him out. So anyway, I did a Patreon podcast yesterday, recorded it. I'll have it up tomorrow with Nadia Bolkin. This is all the Patreon podcasts start at the bottom level, $5 a month. And then, you just get more benefits from there. So it's less than the price of a cup of coffee. Well, if you get your coffee at Starbucks, but and it's only once a month. So don't get that coffee just one time a month, and you can be a patron. So anyway, I had a really fun time talking to Nadia yesterday. I talk to her every couple of months. We do a series of podcasts on the Patreon, and she recommends horror movies to me, which I don't know. You'll have to watch these or listen to these, but it was a lot of fun. We got onto so many side topics yesterday, but the gist of it is, if Nadia likes a horror movie, then I know I'm pretty sure that I'm going to like it too, 95% of the time. So yeah. All right. DeBronzo, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Mike DeBronzo, architect and artist, and happy that a certain radiated lizard won an Oscar lately. And this should be John Langan's moment to bring one of these up.
It should be. And
present that, but yeah, absolutely. Couldn't be happier.
He's been trying for that Oscar for how many years now? Decades now? Oh, 60? Wow. Hey, hang on, Matt. I gotta spotlight you. Oops. There we go. All right, show us that again.
Okay.
For those who are listening,
might have a few Godzilla figures. That's just, a little bit. So
Wow. I
I'm
saw.
not a Godzilla fan at all.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah. So he never gave up. Never gave up on his
No.
dream. It's inspiring, is what it is. So, DeBronzo, did you introduce yourself?
Oh, of course I did.
Oh, of course.
Glad to know it was memorable.
Yeah, it's one of those days. Rick.
Rick Lay, writer and pulp magazine collector.
He's smiling about something. I'm getting nervous. Pete,
What do you want?
I want
know,
so many things, Pete,
you
but for
took me
now,
away
just
from
an
the-
introduction.
You took me away from the pub. So
Did I?
yeah,
Well, you can drink. You can drink in here. It's all right.
I know, but oh my God, they had these great Jameson whiskey barbecue sauce wings. And
Wow.
I could just yeah. Anyway. Yeah, Pete Rawlik, writer, author, scribbler,
Fisherman.
fisherman, dog lover.
Hmm.
And that's if you can hear that snoring sound.
Is that your dog? Oh my gosh. Wow. He's tuckered out.
He is. I don't know what he was doing last night, but he had better time than I did.
Wow. Mark.
Stephen Mark Rainey, author of many, many scary stories and books, editor, and all around old fart.
Yeah, speaking of
And I like Godzilla. I like Godzilla.
You do. Speaking of that, we talked recently about, I just blanked on the name. I had it in my mind. Your latest book,
Death
and
Realm?
Death Realm
The Death Realm.
Spirits. Yes.
Yeah, Death Realm Spirits.
And I was walking by one of my shelves and I saw this again.
Oh, yeah.
Fugue Devil Resurgence. So we don't have a guest today. Tell the audience, what do you got there, Pete?
That's
Oh,
the Death Realm.
Death Realm.
That's actually the box that it comes in from Shortwave.
Oh, he's showing off. Yeah.
Really nice box.
Yeah. What do you got there? You're muted. So
It's the box, the special made box,
mhm.
and
What's
then
in the box?
the book inside,
There you go.
which I will read this week. I think.
So who's the Fugue Devil, Mark?
All right. Well, Fugue Devil is a old scary character of mine that I introduced in a story I wrote back. I think it was in 1991. Is very rooted in Lovecraftian horror. But the genesis of the Fugue Devil actually was in a previous story, although it's not mentioned, but a story called Threnody, which goes into the part of the mythos occupied by Eric Zahn. And there's a mad musician on a mountaintop in southern Virginia, which ended up becoming one of my ongoing settings, who opened a door, and the Fugue Devil was one of various entities that emerged. And the Fugue Devil, the story Fugue Devil, is the showpiece of that book, and it also has a sequel that what's it called, Eye of the Devil or something, that ends the book. And there's several other Lovecraftian cosmic horror stories in there. There's one based on King in Yellow. So the book Fugue Devil Resurgent is sort of a catalog of my short fiction over a lot of years.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Pick up Death Realm Spirits and Fugue Devil Resurgence. Rick?
Mark, you mentioned Eric Zahn. You have a character called Maurice Zahn. Could you elaborate on him?
Well, he's clearly a relation of some sort, undefined. I never delved much into his origin, but created a book called The Spheres Beyond Sound, which appears in several of my stories. And it's one of those, where it basically gives sonic instructions to either open doors, shut doors, communicate, and in Threnody, the story where it made its first appearance, this recording was made. A recording was made based on stuff in the Spheres Beyond Sound. It was a composition by this Maurice Zahn, and that was the culprit that started the whole business in an ongoing number of stories that I've done.
Okay.
It was based on a real album that you had.
Well, the inspiration was, I can't go so far as to say it was really based on it, but when I was a kid, there was a record album called A Child's Introduction to Music, and what blew my mind about it, and I found it a while back online, and I've even still got the old album. Some of the compositions in that thing are kind of dark sounding, and when I was a kid, they creeped me out. And the narrator on the album was a guy named Maurice Zam, Z-A-M, but the style of the font when I was a kid, I would have sworn was Zahn, Z-A-N-N. So when I started coming up with ideas for the this the offshoot of Eric Zahn story, I thought, well, I'm going to do Maurice Zahn, because I thought for a long time that the Zam, Z-A-M, was the Z-A-N-N, and it just seemed to be a perfect fit. So it's not that it was really based on that album, but that was my inspiration for it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for elaborating.
All right, there's
Hey,
no
Mark.
charge.
Okay, appreciate that. I should have
Can I
asked
ask you a quick
before.
question?
Yeah, sure.
I meant to ask you this last time. Well, not last time, but a while ago.
Mhm.
What was the inspiration behind Blue Devil Island?
Blue Devil Island was initially, I was just going to write a World War II novel, but I am apparently incapable of writing anything that cosmic horror doesn't worm its way into. And once I started coming up with, I wanted to have a menace that would actually overshadow the threat of the Japanese. And so there is the remotest, and when I say remote, you have to squint to see it, of the sound aspect that sort of plays into the whole Spheres Beyond Sound element in a lot of my work. But yeah, Blue Devil Island was just going to be a World War II historical novel, because World War II aviation has been a passion of mine over my entire life. And so once I got it progressing, I felt like, well, I'm going to combine my primary passions of the war history and the cosmic horror.
Don't you have a short story with it's a pilot that bails out and lands in a
That
jungle or
is,
something?
yes, there are two stories that also tie into that. There's one called The Children of Burma that was actually the precursor to the threat in Blue Devil Island. It takes place in Burma at a much earlier date than Blue Devil Island, and it involves the flying tigers. So in the follow-up to that was called Epiphany, a flying tiger story, and it's one of the flying tigers gets shot down, and when he bails out, gets stuck in his parachute gets stuck up in the canopy of this jungle in Burma, and overnight things start happening in the jungle that go beyond your typical jungle things.
I remember that story. I read that way before I knew you, 13 or 14 years ago.
Yeah, it's been
Was it-
I can't remember where it was first published. I know, Richard Chismar did a set for Cemetery Dance of these little small, I think, what size were they? They were like almost postcard size books, and so it came out as a standalone little book, and then I included it in one of my collections. I
Other
believe.
Gods? I think it's Other
Probably,
Gods.
probably yes.
Wasn't it in the Ithaca cycle?
I don't know. No, Ithaca cycle was actually a World War I story about a
Okay.
pilot. That was called
see what
Stalker
it
of the
was.
Wild. Yeah, that was Stalker of the Wild Wind, which again was a war drama, and the theme, it was the theme of that story. I wrote that almost, I'm going to say 5 to 8 years before Blue Devil Island, but the theme of it was one that really stuck with me. So I used some elements of that idea in Blue Devil Island, although they're very, very different stories at the end of the day.
And
What was the
there's a
name of the story,
Dark
Mark?
Shadows connection.
It's called Stalker of the Wild Wind, and that's in one of my collections too. I can never remember which stories are in which collection. There is some of them feature this.
Oops.
Oh, you just muted yourself, Mark.
Yeah. I think you
What's
hit
the
your mute
sound?
button, Mark.
No, I didn't even move my hands.
Oh wow. I don't know what happened then.
That was the gods of the internet or something. But
Yeah. Guess so.
now, Stalker, the Wild Wind, and Blue Devil Island, that they have sort of a common basis, but honest to God, I can never remember what books like various stories of mine are in, because I've got several collections and I'm older than the hills and I have to look stuff up.
I need to reread Fugue Devil and Blue Devil Island. Fugue Devil, I just want to, before we move on, if you know about it, it knows about you. If you see it, it will come for you. Stephen Mark Rainey's The Fugue Devil, long considered one of his most atmospheric and frightening tales, originally appeared in 1992 in his first fiction collection, Fugue Devil and Other Weird Horrors. Now, 30 years later, Fugue Devil Resurgence celebrates the publication of the original novelette and features 11 more stories of deep, cosmic dread, including The Devil's Eye, the next chapter of the chilling Fugue Devil legend. And here's so everyone, you should really pick this up. Richard Chismar says, I've been a Stephen Mark Rainey fan for more than 30 years now, and there's good reason for that. He's a consummate storyteller. Fugue Devil Resurgence represents Rainey working at the top of his game and his cause for celebration. And he goes on to say that it should be at the top of everybody's reading list this year or any year.
Yeah, that was really awesome. I had asked Rich if he'd maybe give me a blurb, and I really, really appreciated. I sort of fell over and cried a little bit.
He's a nice guy. He's a really great writer.
Yes, indeed.
So
before we leave,
Mhm.
there's a Dark Shadows connection in Blue Devil Island.
Slightly. I've done work in the Dark Shadows realm for HarperCollins and Big Finish, and one of the pilots in Blue Devil Island is a fellow named Max Collins, who hails from a little fishing village in Maine. So if you know Dark Shadows, just a little nod, little
Cabot
nod to the
Cove?
show. What's that?
Is it Cabot Cove?
No, no.
Candle Cove, is that what you said?
Cabot Cove
Yeah.
is from Murder She Wrote.
Murder, She Wrote.
No, Collinsport, Maine.
I didn't even pick that up.
Yeah, in the book I just mentioned a small fishing village in Maine with the Collins name. So people, who know I'm a Dark Shadows geek are gonna go, oh, he's a Dark Shadows geek.
And I've been reminded again.
Yes.
So I know this is a first world problem, Pete, but I was watching The Peripheral yesterday, which is a sci-fi series on Amazon Prime, and I had to sit through commercials. What is the world coming to? That's what I want to know.
It's not a first world problem. It's a corporate lying problem.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lawsuit against that in California for the commercials, because it should be, if they're going to do that, everybody that's had Prime prior to that, that wasn't part of the deal while you
Mhm.
signed up for Prime. So I don't know what's happened with it, because I brought up the other day with my better half. I'm like, it's bullshit, but I buckled like a cheap belt because I don't want to sit through commercials. So you got to pay an extra
$2.99 a month?
$3 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which adds, it's just like Prime always gets exponentially more expensive each year. So now you've just made it even more expensive.
You know,
I
if you
mean,
get
come
if you get something like Peacock, for example, or that may not be the right one, but several streaming services do this. They're like, okay, if we're glad you want to sign up. Here's our two choices. This one's cheaper with, with some short commercials, and this one's a little bit more expensive with no commercials. I'm fine with that. But when I've been paying this price, you don't say, by the way, we're now going to give you less for the same price. That's not the way to do it.
I mean, I've been like a Prime customer for 15 years, and all this probably have,
Yeah, ditto.
It's just like, come on, that's not rewarding your loyal customers.
Yeah.
That's just sticking it, yeah, it's bullshit.
Semper Fidelis, Amazon. Come on.
Yeah. Well, Bezos needs another yacht, something.
You got to make up that Lord of the Ring money.
Amazon is more money than God. Why
Is
do
anybody actually watching that?
I couldn't get through it.
I made it 20 minutes and I bailed out. I'm like, nah, that's not for me.
Yeah.
I saw
Tapped
the whole
out, huh?
thing.
What, Rick?
I saw the whole thing.
Thoughts?
It got a little better at the end.
Yeah.
But I wasn't overwhelmed.
My problem is that they created a model, a business model that they said was sustainable, and put a lot of other services out of business. And now it apparently wasn't what they're saying now is, that model is not sustainable. Well,
yeah.
How is that right?
Well, it's not. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this lawsuit. And yeah, DeBronzo, $3 a month. It's not much, but I haven't buckled yet because, I hate to use it's the principle of the thing, but it is. Pisses me off. And I'm more likely just not to watch Prime as much,
Yeah, I'm watching Prime a lot less, as a matter of fact.
The other thing that
I get Shudder through it, and I'm always on it, so it would just drive me nuts in the end, which is probably what they were banking on.
You can get Shudder directly. You don't have to go through Prime.
Yeah, true, but
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing with Shudder. I'm, any of my other streaming subscriptions I've gotten separately rather than going through Prime.
The thing that I've noticed is that half the commercials I watch are for other shows.
Yeah.
So it's not working as a business model because they're doing they're paying for their own advertising, which I don't know why they're doing that. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
So, I probably would have canceled my Prime subscription if it wasn't for the mail, the packaging.
Yeah.
Benefits.
Same.
Same
free
here.
delivery, 2-day delivery in a lot of cases, 1-day delivery in a lot of cases, excuse me, depending on where you live.
All the channels are going in commercials. Disney Plus.
We watched Hulu last night trying to watch a movie. It was like nonstop commercials.
Hulu's one that has
It's
the
like
choices. Hulu's one that has the choice
I mean,
between commercials and non-commercials.
Yeah.
But the commercials, it's like they're really laying it on. They're trying to push you to go to that next tier. Yeah, it was almost like watching regular TV, back in the 80s, where it's like, okay, commercial. So it just got annoying after a while. Like, okay, enough.
like I said, I mean, yeah, I'm not starving to death in a third world country or anything. I realize
Yeah.
it's a little thing, but we're talking about horror, and we watch a lot of horror on Prime. It's annoying, you know.
Yeah.
And I can't help.
Especially with,
Go ahead.
I just want to say, especially with a horror movie or something that's building suspense or tension.
Yeah.
You know, I forget what movie it was, but it
Good
was
point.
like right when you got to that point, and then the commercial kicked in and completely let the steam out of it. And I'm like, seriously?
I noticed something
But-
last night. After the commercial, if you hit the 10-second rewind, because sometimes I miss part of the dialogue,
Yeah.
it played
Puts
the
you right back to the
commercials again.
commercial. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if
Jeez.
you scroll through a film past at least one commercial break,
Mhm.
when you start up again, the first thing it hits you with is a commercial.
Tubi, I don't have a problem at all with that because it's
Mm-mm.
free.
And
Yeah,
those
that's the-
commercials
that's the
are
agreement.
very short too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Now, I do
Tubi
like-
and the Roku channel, both are really great free channels that have a lot of content and very limited commercials. Sorry, Pete, what?
I do appreciate they put the time in
Yeah.
a lot of stuff I'm watching.
Yeah.
they put
How much
the
time
and
you got? Right.
how much time,
Yeah.
so I can go make a sandwich, bathroom, read a book, whatever. But
Wait
I
a
talked
minute.
about
Hang on a
this.
second. I'm going to call bullshit on that because men our age can't go to the bathroom and get back in a 60-second.
It's not 60 seconds, but
Point to Mike right there.
yeah. The thing that I talked about this with my kids, and just they're abandoning the streaming and pay for watching services and just going out and buying DVDs and CDs. This is driving them away.
You should,
You-
though, because you're at
Yeah.
the whim if that ever gets pulled, you're screwed.
Right. I mean, last month, was it Paramount pulled all the Star Trek movies, right? And
Isn't that-
distributed them to other services. What's the fucking point of having Paramount if you can't watch Star
Mhm.
Trek?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's so
that's the-
weird.
So,
That's so weird.
but now, and this is a real thing, is like my kids go, before I go say, they say to me, before we go searching to see what movie, what service has a movie we want to watch, do we own it? And I'm like, I really regret getting rid of half a case of DVDs.
Here's what I wonder.
What-
If you own movies on Prime, which I do,
No, you don't.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But do they play commercials in the
No,
middle of them? They damn well
they
better
don't.
not.
They don't if you own it.
Okay.
Because
Good
I have
to know.
seasons
At
of
the
the.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I have seasons of the Avengers, because the only ones I physically have are the M appeals, but everything before and after, I don't. And you can't get the Honor Blackman ones on our region, as far as I could tell. That's the only way, except buying a region 3 or region 2, whatever it is, this player. But you, like you said, you don't own them.
Right.
They ever
And
pull
the
them,
moment- Go ahead.
the second they pull them, you're just screwed. That's
Right.
why it drives me nuts that the Empty Man does not have a physical release.
Yeah.
It's on Hulu now. It was on Max. It's like you can own a digital copy of it, but same thing. If it goes away, there's really no way to get that movie, because it's the last movie 20th Century Fox released, and they didn't do anything with it. It was a contractual thing. Showed up in the theater for a day, gone.
Yeah. And if you leave the country, if you leave the zone that you've purchased stuff in, you lose it.
Really?
Oh shit!
Yeah. That's true.
Because you've crossed into a new rental agreement zone.
Hmm.
So we were just talking about this at the conference I was at this past week, and a lot of the guys the people, authors, when they travel, they turn off Wi-Fi on their devices so that the device doesn't know where they're at. So they don't lose any of the stuff that they bought. But that
Oh,
means they
that's
can't buy
interesting.
anything new.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous.
Late Night with the Devil is now in theaters. They sent me a screener of this, and Stephen King said he couldn't take his eyes off the screen. Had nothing but good words to say. A lot of people really love this. It may be, in my view, I really liked it. I'll just get that out of the way. That said, it would be very easy to hype this movie up too much in your minds before you see it. I mean, King saying he can't take his eyes off the screen. I didn't have that reaction. I just thought it was a really good horror movie. So
I'm really looking forward to that. But like, you can overhype something to a negative effect on a book, a movie, anything.
absolutely.
Because your perspective on that may be completely different. You know, if somebody who's not like a huge horror fan says, this is the scariest movie I ever saw, and we watch it and I'm like, you know, didn't break a sweat.
Right.
You know, you're setting up for unrealistic expectations sometimes.
Yeah. So that's what I want to say is, yeah, definitely go see it, or see it when it comes out on DVD or streaming or whatnot. But
Shudder in April, I think.
oh yeah, that's right. But just don't hype it up too much in your minds. So it's good though. I think it dropped the ball in a couple places that I can't really talk about without spoiling the plot, but overall, really good movie. It's about a late night talk show host in the 70s, for those who don't know. And then one night on Halloween, 1977, I think, mayhem, mayhem, mayhem. So, and it's a good thing they recorded it. Otherwise, we would know nothing about this. All right. Did you guys see a movie called Caveat a year or two ago?
I don't think so.
I know what you're talking about, but I didn't see it. I saw the trailer.
It's streaming on Shudder.
What's it about?
Good question. Because I didn't really. That was the director's first movie. Let me just read. This is on Bloody Disgusting. First look at the creepy wooden mannequin in Caveat. Director new horror. Oh no, excuse me. His new horror movie is called Oddity. There's an article in Bloody Disgusting about the wooden mannequin first look. But writer-director Damien McCarthy made his feature debut with the Irish horror movie Caveat back in 2021. And he's back this year with a new movie. Caveat is it's interesting. I mean, I really liked it. It's very different. The official synopsis is a lone drifter suffering from partial memory loss accepts a job to look after a psychologically troubled woman in an abandoned house on an isolated island. So you're just asking for trouble when you do that. Anyway, I really liked it. And Damien McCarthy must really like using props like, stuffed animals or in this case, wooden mannequins. That's in Caveat too. If I remember right, it's a really weird looking rabbit. It's creepy as hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen this, Pete?
I did watch it. It's creepy. It's not necessarily a horror film I think of it more as a psychological drama.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, it's kind of bizarre.
Well, he's out with Oddity. It's not available to watch yet. I actually contacted the director. You guys will like this. And we're going to look at dates, maybe April or May, for him to come on the show and talk about it.
Nice.
But, I said I told him who I was and everything, and he goes, "Oh, I knew that podcast sounded familiar." He goes, I listened to that, or I have listened to that quite a bit back in the day, So that was nice. Nice to hear. Yeah. And I can't wait to watch Oddity, because this just looks really good. In this new supernatural spectacle from Caveat's Damon McCarthy, a blind medium uncovers the truth behind her sister's death with the help of a frightening wooden mannequin. Well, they can be very helpful. Yeah.
You mentioned talking dolls before.
Yeah.
There was a similar to this on YouTube. There was a channel which had 20 things that should be taught in schools, and from history. And Thomas Edison devised the first talking doll, and it creeped children out. With an enormous failure.
I didn't know that. But that should definitely be taught in schools. Yeah.
He also electrocuted an elephant in public,
You did?
which is yeah.
Yeah.
You got to look it up. I can't remember the exact.
All right.
Horrified everybody that saw it. Obviously,
I bet.
So it was actually to denigrate Nikola Tesla.
oh,
He
alternate
was-
current versus direct
Yeah,
current.
Edison was not a nice guy, and he was really not a nice guy to Tesla. You
No.
know? Just
And he screwed a lot of his employees who really developed the inventions.
right. Right.
So there
Yeah,
was
that-
I'm trying to
the
remember
whole-
the name of it. There was a movie that came out, I guess maybe 2 years ago. I think it's British or Irish. It's about a ventriloquist doll that has lots of legs. It's like a spider.
Awesome.
Possum. Yes, that's it.
Haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about because you talked
Oh
about it.
my god.
Really? That good?
It's really, really fucking good.
It's on
really-
Shudder too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I ran into it one afternoon and I just started watching it, and like everybody who walked into the room and like said, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm watching this." And it's really, really freaking. And by the time like it was over, like 10 people had just joined me. And we were just like
Where
stunned.
were you?
In my living room.
Oh, 10 people?
Yeah, people just come to my house, they walk through, they say hi, they walk out the back door, you know.
Just
Yeah.
random tourists, shit
Yeah.
like that.
It's a
Just
stop
staying
on
alive.
the West Palm Beach tour bus.
Yeah, yeah. Who is Mike and Bridget are gonna be swinging through in April.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
That reminds me, the Dallas Frightmare
cheerleaders?
in May. Frightmare in Dallas in May is it convention. I'm gonna go because Dallas is only 45 minutes from here. Mike and Bridget are gonna go. Have you guys thought about it?
What's the dates?
17th through the 19th of May.
Oh no, I can't do that.
What about Necronomicon?
I can do Necronomicon.
I'll be at Necronomicon.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, awesome. That's a lot of books I have to bring.
Pete, we should do another
That's true.
Patreon dinner.
We should, you know, if anybody's watching this, post in the if anybody who
We
wants
do
to
have
go-
viewers, yes.
all right. If and when you're watching this and you want to do another Patreon dinner,
And you're a
post-
Patreon. Let me throw that in there.
post another in the Facebook, you know, that you want to do this, and I will try to set something up. It might not be in the hotel because I'm not fond of the hotel anymore.
I
They're-
think we should just count on it because, yeah, I think we should just count on it.
all right.
There'll be patrons there.
Yeah. So last time we went, I got an Airbnb and I had a
Mhm.
full kitchen. And I was actually I was a little drunk the other night and I thought to myself, you should just cook for everybody.
You're right, because I've never had your cooking. And this would be great. Yeah,
It would.
I think it's a great idea. And we could all,
Um,
after we're done eating, we can watch Barbarian.
Yeah, no. No.
You
I'm
want
not
me to
sure
pick
what
the
this-
movie? I can pick the movie. You guys love my choices.
Let's not have DeBronzo pick the movie.
Yeah. I can't even remember if the place had a TV. Because,
R-
you know, it did.
Rick and Mark, have you guys seen Barbarian?
Yes.
So you know why I brought that up, because
Yeah.
it's Airbnb.
Airbnb.
Yeah. I just wanted to see if this is
I
public.
think we
before-
should watch Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
That's the one where he flies.
Yeah. I do like the shape shifting Hedorah.
I do too.
I mean, I thought it was thought it was a fun plot.
I actually kind of love that movie in its wonky way. Growing up, I was kind of against it because Godzilla flying at the time was just really stupid. But
Does he have a cape? in
he
that?
does not.
He uses his
Got a tail.
breath.
Yeah.
He uses his breath as sort of the engine.
Yeah, but
He's
there's
flying
a there's
backwards.
a
He's
lot of
flying back.
there's a lot of grim shit in that movie. People
Yes.
getting melted with Hedra smog and everything. So it's one of my favorites now, just because it's so weird.
Okay.
The thing that always got me was when Godzilla dances the jig.
Monster Zero.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't know.
kinda-
I think that would
She
snap me
does.
out of the suspension of belief, of disbelief.
Yeah.
Well, is
Seeing
it
Godzilla do-
Gigan where
Gigan.
Tim and Angorius and they have speech balloons?
Yeah.
I had totally forgotten about that because I hadn't seen it since I was a kid. I'm like, fuck.
I can see I've missed out on a lot not
I
being
think it
on
was
Godzilla.
Godzilla versus Gigan.
It's Gigan, actually. Yeah, Gigan.
And then what's the one with where they're essentially it's pro wrestling with
Oh, shit.
Jaguar?
Gigan.
So I guess this means you guys want to talk about the new kaiju short film from Godzilla -1 director Takashi Yamazaki.
Commercial.
Yeah.
Hey, just let me read this about Food Lasla, a monster representing wasted food. It's been released. I will include this trailer, commercial, whatever you want to call it. It's funny.
Yeah, the
It's fun.
Japanese have always done really wild stuff like that. So it's it's not out of character at all for Japanese commercials.
And
Yeah.
and Godzilla has actually promoted products in the past, right? I can remember some commercials where he's like holding beer or wine or
Probably Dr. Pepper.
probably you might be right. And he's done shoes.
They
Uh,
have shoes in his size.
Didn't he do commercials with Charles Barkley for shoes?
Yes, it was. Yeah, back in late 80s, I think it was.
Yeah. See, I'm not insane.
I'm just trying to mentally imagine him like doing a Schlitz commercial, like walking into the bar and shit, and like, make mine a Schlitz.
Or
Probably be a
Geico commercial.
Sapporo. Yeah, Sapporo beer. Probably.
Yeah.
Could do a Geico
what's-
commercial.
What's the
Because
little
everyone needs insurance, with him around.
Yeah. There's a cartoon that's very famous where he's sitting at a bar and he's got a little glass and he looks at the bartender and says, "You call that a Manhattan? Where's all the screaming people?"
Yeah.
That's actually pretty funny. Okay, so anyone see the trailer for the Crow remake?
I'm
Have
trying
not.
to avoid it.
I've seen the stills. I haven't seen the trailer.
And I think the trailer just came out. I watched it this morning.
I saw the trailer and I don't remember anything from it.
Yeah, it's the vibe that you get from watching The Crow is just, it's so atmospheric, and I don't get that vibe from this.
I don't understand the need to remake it at all. It
No.
was a perfect movie.
They've remade RoboCop, and look how that
Oh,
worked out.
Yeah.
basically remaking about everything,
Yes.
everything that's made $1 in history, time for a remake.
Well, they got a pretty big star. What's his name? The guy that played.
Skarsgård?
Yeah, Skarsgård.
Yeah.
What's his first name? Because there's
Bill.
a couple.
Bill
Right.
Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Don't confuse him with his dad, right?
Yeah, well, something like that. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe if it's free sometime I'll watch it, but it just makes me want to watch the original again.
Is this the same Skarsgård that played in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That played what?
It.
Oh,
was
yeah.
in
He was
It.
Pennywise in It. Yeah, the newer It.
And
Yes.
he was in John Wick 4.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but meanwhile, all I can think of is like of all the comic book things you could be adapting to set yourself apart from Marvel and DC right now, why go back to the Crow? Pick a new uh, a new vehicle.
I would say because it's got a built-in audience to a certain point. I don't know. It's just why do they remake all of this shit? I mean, not shit,
Money.
but you know what I mean?
Proven IPs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Talk about Poor Things, because you guys said something about that before we started recording.
I was talking about it. It is a Frankenstein fantasy. I wouldn't really say it's a horror movie. It's very good, but this is a warning. It's a hard R as far as sexual content.
So don't watch it with your kids, right?
Yeah, or if your wife's walking by.
Where can you watch it? Is it still in theaters or?
It's on Hulu.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I'll have to watch that then. Yeah, maybe I'll watch that tonight. Okay, so I was doing a mental exercise the other night. Don't ask me how I came onto this. Pete, you're gonna love this. I just know you are. You're gonna roll your eyes so hard. If we were the Enterprise crew, who would we be? The original series.
The original series?
Yeah, I already know who Pete would be. What do you guys think? You're
What
right.
Pete would be?
Yeah, Pete.
Oh, he'd be wearing a red shirt.
Yeah, absolutely.
He'd be Lieutenant Leslie, who never got killed.
I think he'd be Scotty.
Oh. Can't I just be Barkley?
Who would want to be Barkley?
That's on Next Generation.
Yeah, we're talking original series here. Play by the rules, man.
Play by the rules. All right.
Yeah. I think he would be Scotty.
All right.
Tremaine.
Keeps everything going, behind the scenes. So yeah.
All right.
Every time we do a Patreon dinner, Pete's the one who organizes it.
Yeah, but I'm also and I'm also
I'm a writer, not a
I'm
dinner
inebriated
organizer,
most of the
Mike.
time. I'm inebriated a good part of the time too, so fits right in there with.
Well, it's just like oil, you're greasing the joints and everything, keep things rolling.
All right.
Keep it
I see where
lubricated.
you're going with this.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, all right, let's do Rick. Longtime listeners will find this fun. I don't know if this is your first episode, maybe not so much, but we're going to do it anyway.
Rick is Spock.
Absolutely, he is.
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Huh?
I like that.
Well, hey, if I do nothing else today, I made Rick smile. My day is everything else is gravy. So
I actually played Spock at I don't know if they still have it this way. It was a ride at Universal, or an attraction where you could film Star Trek with your family.
oh wow.
It was between my brother wanted to be Kirk, so I was Spock.
I love it.
And we did it as adults with kids.
Yeah. So yeah, he'd definitely be Spock. All right, we're just gonna do the people who are here, I guess. Well, I don't know. Who would Matt be?
Oh, he's McCoy.
He's McCoy, unquestionably.
Good point. Yeah, he's McCoy.
All right, so that makes you Kirk,
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I would say
And-
so.
and DeBronza was Rand.
Rand.
I do have a great ass, so I can't really argue that.
Well,
you know?
he can be Christopher Pike going by the original series, but he'll end up in a wheelchair. That's the bad news.
Who's Rand?
Yeoman
She
Rand.
was
Owen Rand.
she was on the first season. She was the blonde. She was supposed to be
Oh.
Kirk's love interest, and they got rid of her.
One of them.
Yeah. And she constantly was showing
Wow.
up for him to sign things on a computer. I'm dead serious. She
Yeah,
would bring him the
that's
daily
true.
reports, and he would like,
Wow.
yeah.
All right, what crew members are we missing, and who would Mark be?
Chekhov, Sulu,
Yeah, Klingon.
Nurse Chapel.
Clink.
Hey, I'll take it.
Tremaine.
I'll take it.
Oh, what's his name from First Contact? He's actually in the original series. Invents warp drive.
Oh yeah,
Cochran?
Cochran. Yeah.
Yeah, Cochrane. Hey,
He's
I can do.
he's on a planet with a sexy alien. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you go wrong? And he's gonna live forever.
Yeah, true. If Bridget was here, I was going to go in. I was going to talk a bit about how she's Uhura, and it's not because they're both female. It's the whole music thing connection with, Uhura. It's basically the stereo systems operator on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. So
Nobody's taken Sarek yet.
he's not a crew member. I mean, I let you have Cochrane, but
Yeah, I think Sarek. I think Sarek counts more as a crew member than he is a member of the Federation. And he is I think he has some standing on the ship.
yeah,
And like Spock, he makes it to the next generation.
yeah.
Yes,
True.
and he's in Enterprise.
Is he
He
in
is?
Enterprise?
Sarek's in
think he-
Enterprise.
I think Sarek is in
Can't
Enterprise.
remember. I can't remember.
It's been a
maybe.
long
Good
time.
Been a long time.
He's in Discovery.
Right.
Yeah, all right. I thought
Kitten
he was
from
in
there to
Enterprise.
here.
Anyway,
It's been a long time,
yeah,
Fucking
that
hate
was the
that
worst
song.
part of
Yeah,
that.
we can't mute Mike, can we?
but our time is finally here.
There's
It's
there's
just
somebody in this house that loves that song.
Uh,
it
and I-
takes me right
I
out of
can't-
it every
Ugh.
time.
yeah.
I've
Yeah.
watched Enterprise.
Who sang that?
Wasn't
Is it
me.
Ken Loggins?
No, I can't remember, but I don't think it was anyone I was familiar with.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, I loved Enterprise. I actually liked it a lot. But yeah, I'd always, that was one of the beauties about, like watching it, streaming it. You could just go zap and, get through the opening
Yeah.
song and everything.
One of the worst endings though of any Star Trek show. Because
Well,
you
yeah.
remember how they ended it?
I don't remember now.
And not off the top of my head, I'd have to.
It involved two next generation characters where it's kind of like it was all a dream.
Seriously?
Vaguely, that's coming back to
They
me.
were holodecking it.
Yeah. They were looking
But the
at it like it was a history lesson.
Yeah.
But the problem was it was a sequel to an earlier Next Generation episode, which involved Riker and this Romulan cloaking device. And you might have forgotten that episode.
Yeah, it's not ringing a bell.
Who was in the last episode?
He had to make a decision of whether to tell Picard. And he had been involved in this illegal development of a cloaking device in violation of some treaty with the Romulans.
Right. I do remember that.
Oh, wasn't the ship like embedded in something or caught in phase? Or...
Yes, it was. It had to have been. They had to abandon it. Now the
Yeah, now I
admiral who he
remember.
worked for it was Terry O'Farrell from Lost.
Terry O'Quinn.
Terry O'Quinn, rather. Yeah, the guy who played John Locke.
Yeah, and also Stepfather back in the 80s. I know. Now I remember which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Did you guys say a
Supposed to
couple
be a
of?
sequel to that, and that kind of got lost. I caught it, but I said it's going to confuse the heck out of most viewers.
Did you guys say there was a couple of next generation characters in the last episode?
Of Enterprise, yeah.
Yeah.
Who's
yeah.
there?
Riker and isn't it Troy? It's been ages since I've seen it.
Yeah, it's been quite a long while, but I do remember now that they were doing it. They were running it. The holodeck thing is more or less a history lesson. I do remember that bit.
Riker's definitely one of them.
And doesn't that
It's Michael
echo?
and Troy.
Doesn't that echo the one of the last episodes of Babylon 5, where you find out that it's being essentially somebody in like a couple thousand years in Earth's future is looking back at this as a history lesson.
They did.
I
I
remember
haven't
that
watched
from-
Babylon 5 since the 90s. I mean, I loved it, but I really don't remember the ending. Like,
I remember the 4th season with the Shadow Wars. I was really into it. 5th season is kind of, I'm not remembering that.
I remember something like that ending in the remake of damn it. What's the sci-fi series where they're fighting, right? Remake series from what, the 80s? Where
Battlestar Galactica?
V?
Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, there's something like that in the last episode of Battlestar Galactica, the remake.
What they did in Babylon 5, they had a group of snotty historians.
I think they were Rangers, secretly Rangers.
No, it was a panel of noxious people saying how bad historians judging the characters and saying how lousy they were, and the female character was married to the captain of the show, Delon or whatever her name was, goes up and tells them, "What you don't know, you invent," and balls them out. So it was sort of like a preview of what was going to happen in the last season.
Yeah.
She was the Minbari, right?
In the Minbari. Because you see, like, a scene was the guy who was head of security being held hostage by somebody that we later learn. You don't know who it is when we watch it there, but we learn in the 5th season it's the telepaths.
Vorlons?
Launching a rebellion.
Garibaldi, I think, was the head of security.
Yeah, it was Garibaldi.
I watched. You guys know I haven't seen a lot of Deep Space Nine, but somebody said the episode "The Visitor" was really good, so I watched that last week. Remember that one?
In the Pale Moonlight's probably the best one, but you need to watch the series to truly appreciate it.
Okay.
At least the Dominion War.
Well, I'm gonna start that season, the Dominion War season. I watched the last episode of the one before it.
I don't know if you guys would agree, but it's kind of like a lot of that era of Star Trek. It's like the first 2 seasons are kind of finding its footing. And the 3rd season, it really kicks in.
Yeah, because they stole Babylon 5.
That's what I keep hearing from people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, which is better, Deep Space Nine or Babylon 5?
Deep Space
I gotta
Nine.
go DS9.
Because they ended it. They ended it definitively. Well, he was leaving room for the TV movies, but he never cleaned it up in the TV movies, so we never got a proper ending. Babylon.
That's not taking anything away from the series, though. It's just it was a great series. It's just DS9, I think, is superior.
Is Dominion Wars, is that season 4 or 5? I can't remember what I'm on.
The seeds of it start early. It's been ages since I've gone through the series again.
No, it doesn't start early. I know that much.
Well, I mean, with what is it, the Delta Quadrant? No, Gamma Quadrant, right?
Yeah, it's the Gamma
No.
Quadrant.
Now I'm second guessing myself.
Which
First the Klingons get nasty for a season, and then it ends. That season ends with, I think, the Dominion War story.
Yeah, right. Dominion Wars is set roughly over the courses of seasons 5, 6, and 7 of Star Trek Deep
Wow,
Space Nine.
I thought it started a little earlier. Now, apparently, I am wrong.
Season 4 was with the Klingons.
That's when I want to go back and rewatch.
The Dominion Wars or the whole thing?
Pretty much the whole thing. I love DS9. Like, I was one I didn't miss an episode. Tried not to. I
I've
think the
never
last
seen
season,
the entire series of DS9. I think I saw the first couple of seasons of it way back when, and I've never revisited it. I know I oughta.
I've cherry picked, like this one, that one, but I hasn't sat down and seen a whole season. But I started going through the rabbit hole on YouTube and watching clips again.
Mm.
I was like, I think I got to go back. Because it's not like Next Generation was the Federation kind of the prime directive by the book. And then DS9 was the dirty truth of being on the front line where things aren't so black and white.
And
That's
Cisco
what I really liked
do
about
some controversial things on that show.
Yeah. And that one episode I mentioned in the Pale Moonlight that's the one where, you're like, whoa.
Which
the
season
one
is
where-
Pale Moonlight?
Oh God, I can't remember.
Before
but
Dominion Wars?
It's a big thing that brings somebody into the Dominion War on the Federation side. I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah, I remember. It's narrated by Cisco. He says,
Yeah.
looking back at all I've done, I'll do it all over again. Even though he does something that a hero doesn't normally do.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Rick.
By the way,
Stakes were high in that episode.
sorry?
The
What?
stakes were high in that episode.
Oh, the stakes were high. Yeah. Here's a headline. Blumhouse horror movie Imaginary conjures up $10 million in box office debut.
I read that. I also read that everybody thinks it's stupid.
I read both of those things as well.
So
that
the movies that we've watched previously, including Z, did this much better.
Z is great.
Scared the shit out of me.
And what's the other one that's close to that we watched?
Daniel? Something Daniel?
We need to talk about Daniel.
No,
Is that it?
Daniel's not real.
Daniel's not real.
Daniel isn't real. Something like that.
Yeah.
I read the book.
Yeah,
But
I bought the book after I saw the movie.
Yeah, it's not like the movie, but it's in a way it is, but in ways it's not, as adaptations frequently are, I guess. But it's pretty freaky too. Have you read it yet? Oh, you've read it? Good.
I read it.
Yeah. Daniel isn't real. I mean, you're playing with this trope of, is what they see reality or not?
Right. In some ways, Daniel Isn't Real reminds me of Fight Club.
Yeah.
Because you're always questioning who's doing what and who's responsible for what. But yeah.
Well, here's the synopsis for Imaginary. Jessica moves back into her childhood home with her family. Her youngest stepdaughter, Alice, develops an eerie attachment to a stuffed bear named Chauncey she finds in the basement. Alice starts playing games with Chauncey that begin playful and become increasingly sinister. As Alice's behavior becomes more and more concerning, Jessica intervenes only to realize that Chauncey is much more than the stuffed toy bear she believed him to be when she looked at him and saw a stuffed bear.
Yeah, and it's her childhood toy and her childhood friend.
Yeah, that's why I was interested in this, but
But
sounds like
it's
sounds like it
that's
didn't do it right.
but that's Z. I mean, Z did the exact same thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, guys, folks, if you haven't seen Z, you really should, or Daniel Isn't Real as well. Now, both of these aren't, I don't want to overhype them, but they are damn good. So,
Can I show you something cool?
yeah, absolutely.
Two things.
Glad you could make it, Carpenter.
Oh, I
front
just got my
and back.
copy, Pete.
Oh, I posted about that recently.
Hold on. Let me clean this for a second. There you go.
Yeah, much better.
This isn't wool.
It's a
So,
great looking book.
yeah, we had a lot of fun writing this.
What's the
I
title?
didn't want to.
People don't always have video listening.
It is mystery, murder, madness, and mythos. It's
Noirish mythos.
yeah.
You know, it's a gorgeous book from PS Publishing. I didn't want to transport it with me to this assignment, so I took another book, but it just came in the mail. It's gorgeous. So congratulations.
So then what came with that one was this,
Oh yeah, we've been waiting on this one. Wow.
the
So-
Dagon collection.
The
Do you
Dagon
remember like it was
Collection.
about 2015, the first one came out, right? Or was it 17?
Yep.
It was something like that. Okay.
Yeah, 15, I think.
It was called the
Starry Wisdom.
Esoteric Order of Dagon auction, where they talked about rare tomes and books, but this is talking about artifacts.
So the
and
first
it's
one was the
like-
Starry Wisdom Library.
Okay, yeah.
This one is the Dagon collection of Innsmouth.
So like whatever they gathered during the raid, they were trying to auction off to make back some money.
Yes. So
Is it limited?
I don't think so, but it's PS, so it probably won't last long.
Is that a hardcover?
It is a hardcover.
No, I meant the other book. Sorry.
Yeah, the other one is a hardcover.
Okay.
There is a hardcover limited edition from PS, and I believe there is a paperback edition from DRP.
So maybe you'll get a paperback of this one in a bit.
Yeah, maybe.
Well,
Maybe.
you're
How
just-
much did that? I was just gonna
Uh,
ask, how much did that run you?
It didn't run me anything.
I don't remember if it was like 29 quid
Yeah,
He
and
stole it.
plus shipping.
right.
So maybe 10, 15 pounds to ship it.
And,
So
and
30
and 3
40
pieces of
pounds.
silver.
Yeah. And the nice thing about this is this one actually includes some books that weren't covered in the first volume. So
I just finished. I'm just leisurely pacing through this one. John Langan wrote The Sword of the Sea.
right.
And so that's the one that I've read so far.
So once again, this is like the book to get if you want to collect Lovecraftian signatures.
What's the title of that again?
The Dagon Collection, edited by Nate Peterson.
Pete, no one will ever have a complete signed copy.
I know, because this has one of the last pieces by Joe Pulver in it.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know this was multiple authors.
Yeah, this is so imagine it's an auction book, and I think it's got well, it is meant to be an auction book. And it has 35 entries.
So Mike DeBronzo, I think in the old days when they used to do these really high-end auctions and they didn't have internet and all they had was the post, they would plan like, I don't know, even as a year in advance, they'd send out these very hefty catalogs with instructions on how you could bid if you couldn't make it there. And so this is supposed to be a facsimile of a similar auction catalog from the period, they include an order form. So it's really kind of
Do
neat. And if you never saw the first one was an absolute delight.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So this one, Steve Bachman, Glenn Barras, Nadia Bulkin, Jesse Bullington, Ramsey Campbell, Selena Chambers, Michael Sisko, Gemma Files, Chris Hansen, Daniel Harms, John Langan, Andrew Lehman and Sean Brainey, Robert Levy, Livia Llewellyn, James Lauder, Nick Mamatas, S.P. Miskowski, Sylvia Moreno Garcia, Edward Morris, Lisa Morton, Scott Nicolay, Nate Peterson, Bob Price, Joe Pulver, Liv Rainey Smith, Pete Rollick, Ann Schwader, Keith Taylor, McCormick Templeman, Donald Tyson, Eduardo Valdez Hevia, Monica Valentinelli, Callie Wallace, Karen Warren, Jeffrey Wells, and F. Paul Wilson.
Don't forget Fletch.
Speaking of Liv Rainey Smith, I was just going through, I'm like heaping up books to do my entries, and I came across the Dreams in the Witch House edition that came out with the rock opera.
Yes.
And it has her art in it with
Right.
Nick Tucker too. It's just so lovely. People don't know her. Most people you think of ink, pen, oil paints, watercolors, pencils. She does litho cuts.
Right.
So she essentially, like, this is all kind of like, when you think how she's thinking in reverse of the art that she's creating, it just gets even more impressive,
Yeah.
Yep. Because your negatives have to become positives and your positives have to become negatives.
So if you've never seen any of her art, she's really good.
Sarah Barty. That's who you're talking about?
No, Liv Rainey Smith.
Oh, right.
Sarah Barty does, she did the art for one of the recent tarots themed around Lovecraft.
Right.
And she has a book put out about it now if you don't want to like get the cards. So there's a book of Sarah Barty's art emphasizing her art that she used to make the tarot cards. She's from Italy. Liv Rainey Smith is from the West Coast. She's always a regular. She always has a booth at the or a table at the film festival.
Yeah.
Super nice person.
Xylographilia. The Art of Liv Rainey Smith.
That's a really good book.
Huh.
Xylo being from the word xylem for trees.
So it's doesn't have anything to do with like, animals. No, nothing obscene happening to animals in that word, right?
Well, everything I've seen happening to animals.
Hey, DeBronzo.
Yeah.
I don't always drink with my Lovecraft eZine podcast
But when you
coffee
do,
cup, but when I do, I'm usually recording the podcast. Well,
shameless product plug.
shameless product plug. You can get that. Got a link on the Lovecraft eZine website, swag or whatever. And if I just want to say this too before we move on to the next subject. Besides the Patreon, something you can do to really help the podcast is to comment. If you're watching on YouTube, comment, hit the like button. But especially comment. I'm told the algorithm really likes that these days. And also write a review on Apple. If you could, copy that review to Spotify as well. But Apple is a really important one for no matter, you might watch on YouTube, but if you leave your review on Apple, that'd be great. And or to flip that around, you might be listening on Apple, and just know that I always link to the YouTube in the audio podcast. I always link to the YouTube edition of that same show. That's usually the first link. It's near the top at any rate. And you can go over there and comment on the show. That'd be great. I'd appreciate it. You're just in time, Matt, because I was going to ask these guys about the Innsmouth short film.
Okay, so we are, because of my traveling for work, Lovecraft eZine movie night is kind of like scheduling issues. So last night we had an early night, and we showed, instead of a full-length feature film, we showed 2 TV episodes. The first was Crouch End, the adaptation of the Stephen King short story. But the star of the night was this movie from 1992. It's not a movie, it was a TV production, a TV movie from Japan. Translates back to English as H.P. Lovecraft's Innsmouth. And it's essentially, in a compact hour, a adaptation, not a scene for scene retelling, but very true to the story. It's from Japan. I'm sorry, I don't know the names of any of the artists. I posted a picture of the artist the other night, the guy who did the screenplay. I think people want to talk about it. It's an extremely faithful retelling with budget limitations that you don't feel at all. For an hour TV movie in the 1992 in a foreign country, this is pretty damn good stuff. You can watch it for free on YouTube. All you have to do is search H.P. Lovecraft's Innsmouth, and it's available. It's in Japanese, but it's a subtitled print.
Okay.
I'm really glad I saw it.
Well, I'm gonna have to pull it up and watch it.
Yeah, it's worth watching.
That's
Okay.
going to be on tonight's schedule, I believe.
I have a minor caveat regarding the film.
Let's hear it.
That's the minor, that's that you have Arkham in its mouth and called by those names in Japan.
Yeah.
That's the only
I think, yeah, there's a sign that reveals Arkham, Innsmouth, and Kingsport.
And Dunwich.
Oh, and Dunwich, yeah.
And Kingsport. Yeah, so I think they even mentioned Newburyport, of all places. It's like it's a good old Japanese town, but come on, we'll take it.
Yeah. The new podcast, The Weird Library, episode 2 is out. And that has a story by Laird Barron. And another great narration. It's really, yeah. Did you listen to this already, Mike?
Yeah, great narration.
Okay.
Whoever you got for that, it's just, he hits it out of the field, of the park.
Yeah, and Anthony Pierce is his name, and he's excited to do more. So I'm very excited
awesome.
that he's excited, So if you haven't watched or listened to any of these yet, it's just a new podcast I'm doing, fiction podcast. It's not on a regular schedule, but I'm trying to put out at least 2 a month now that I gotten to where I know what I'm doing and can get them out quicker. So I should have the 3rd episode up this coming week. And yeah, this one's like I said, a Laird Barron story. It's a little over an hour, and Anthony does a really, really great job reading this.
Yep.
This is a new one?
No, this episode 2.
Two.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, this is okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about episode 3
Yeah,
yet.
I started it a couple of weeks ago and couldn't sit through the whole thing, so I just stopped. I want to go through the whole thing at once. So
Oh, I see
there
what you're
again, I
saying.
might be able to get to that, finish it up tonight. That would be good.
Great. Your story's still on my list to read. I just don't want you to think I've forgotten about that. So
I shall look forward to it.
yeah, and yeah, just go to YouTube, I suppose. Yeah, that's probably the best way. I'll have a link in the show notes, but if you're in your car or whatnot, you can just, and you don't want to write it down right now, then just remember to search The Weird Library, Listen in the Dark on Google, add the word YouTube. I'm not sure if might be too new for that search to work as well through YouTube, but who knows? So, and it's also available on Apple, Spotify, all the usual places. So yeah, I'm hoping that it'll catch on and got a little cult following already, but hopefully more people find out about it too. So tell your friends, tell your family members, tell
Cult
everybody.
following is the path to real true success. I mean,
I like
Yeah.
that. I like
Well,
that.
Yeah, if I type weird library, it just pops right up.
In YouTube?
And I on Google. I just
Oh, okay.
went good, but it takes you right to YouTube.
You just typed in the weird library, nothing else?
Yeah. Wait, what did I type? I put in weird library, listen in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Let's see what it does for, yeah, right there. Does my Lovecraft eZine blog post about it. And then in the YouTube show notes for that, on YouTube, Apple, or the show notes for that on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever, it has links below on how you can be notified when the show comes out, or when episodes come out. So yeah, check it out. And for everyone who's listened to it already, thank you. It's free. It's just something new I'm doing, and thanks for watching. All right, what else do we have to talk about, guys? Rick, you got anything? Nope.
What about the question you asked us about what was it, a book that changed
Books.
your
Yeah, influential.
I wasn't really going to ask you. I just wanted you to think about it. That's all. No,
Well,
just kidding.
I prefer
Yeah.
that you formally ask me, damn
Okay,
it.
I will formally ask you now. What is a book or books that changed your life, or at least changed the way that you look at the world?
I have no
I am
idea.
as blank as a fart.
I've got
That's
a
why I
couple.
sent you the email earlier. You guys just said do this, and then you don't have any answers.
I got a couple, but they're not science fiction or anything.
I don't care
like
what they
that.
are. It doesn't matter what they are.
Okay, so one is a book called Ordinary Men,
Okay.
which is about a special police battalion in the German army in World War II who participated in the Holocaust. And they were made up of ordinary people like bakers, butchers, factory workers, who are just normal people. And it describes how they became desensitized and then hardened genocidal murderers. And it's fascinating because ultimately the author concludes these are people like your neighbors. And if it could happen to them, it could happen to anybody. That was very striking to me. I read Snow Falling on Cedars, came out like, I don't know, 95, about the murder of a Japanese man. And it turns out it was related to something I had no clue about. You're going to feel like I'm a fool, but I had no idea about the Japanese internment. That's how well it was hidden in history for my generation. And it like opened my eyes to the Japanese internment during World War II. All right.
Something interesting about what the two books you've mentioned so far is the juxtaposition. They're both about Japanese people, but in one, they're victims in America. In other ones, in the first book, they're perpetrators.
Well, the first ones are Germans.
Oh, the Germans. I thought they were Japanese. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. And then, okay, so I've read Lies My Teacher Told Me. Really, The Third Chimpanzee, both opened my eyes big time, especially The Third Chimpanzee. And then the Motley
Third
Fool.
Chimpanzee? What's that about?
Okay, so in terms of our genetics, we share almost 99% of our DNA with chimpanzees.
Right.
Except there are two species of chimpanzees. There's what you think of as chimpanzees, and there's bonobos. Okay, well, if we were not the ones designating species, we are close enough that all three species would be grouped as one if we were describing other animals. Do you see what I mean? That's how close they are. And the genus Homo was named after Pan for the chimpanzees and bonobos. So really, we should be Pan sapiens, not Homo sapiens, if you're going to like treat us like other animals. And he describes what are basic human societal characteristics, which includes violence and destruction of habitat. But then he did something which he does later in a full-length book. The guy's name's Jared Diamond, which explains why.
Yeah.
Why are we speaking Western languages and why are we not speaking Incan languages? Okay. Why didn't the Aztecs sail over and conquer Europe? what was the difference? And it turns out he makes a very convincing case that the reason
Agriculture.
biogeography. Okay,
Really?
so yeah, because North and South America are north-south, and plants don't translate too well up and down latitudes, but they translate very well across longitudes, and the landmass of Eurasia is mostly east-west. As huge as it is, it's not that same north-south
Right.
pole-to-pole distribution. Furthermore, in North America, they had hunted the horse to extinction where it evolved, but it was present in Eurasia. And so also there were plants there and animals there uniquely suited to agriculture that weren't present in South America. Like by the time the Aboriginal Australians were conquered, they had evidence of an aquaculture, of putting in dams to get fish to congregate in certain places. But they don't have anything else. In New Guinea, when they got it, they rapidly adapted the sweet potato to agriculture. They got 1,000 different languages. But in Europe, you have wheat, goes all across the continent. So now you have horses, wheat, and it just gives you this incredible advantage in terms of how your society is going to evolve. It's like, so it was like a very eye-opening book for me to think about it in those terms. He expanded it to a book length, Guns, Germs, and Steel.
Yeah, I've got that.
But that to me is like, it's instead of being compact, it's like verbose.
Yeah.
Well,
that I'll tell you guys about mine next, because that leads right into, interestingly enough, one of my 2 books that I was going to talk about, Ishmael by Daniel Coyne. Have you guys read this?
We call him that.
Yeah, call me Ishmael. I don't know that I can really adequately say what this is about. The protagonist answers an ad in a newspaper that this came out in the 90s, I believe. Let me get to the first part. Wow, that's a big forward. I forgot about that. Teacher seeks pupil. Must have an earnest desire to save the world. Apply in person. So it's nonfiction. It's basically a conversation between a human and an ape. And the human, by the end of the book, the reader, the human who's a stand-in for the reader, it sees the world in a whole different way. And one of the thing that separates our culture from every other culture, one of the main points of difference is agriculture. So when you have agriculture, you can stay in one place. Cities develop and evolve. When you're a hunter-gatherer, typically you don't stay in one place. So there's that. I'm not doing that book justice, but yeah, read it. And then the other one is, this is sort of a stand-in for a lot of books that I've read, but this is probably the most concise, the best one, Carl Sagan's The Demon Haunted World. So
that was striking to me when I read it in high school. Very striking.
Yeah. Demon Haunted World in high school came out in the 90s.
Did it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Pretty sure.
Huh.
You can double check.
Matt's old. He forgets things.
I've been wrong before. It's happened.
There's another one about World War II in Germany, or post World War II in
1986.
Germany, which is something Demon World, or it's a similar title. Maybe that's what you're thinking of.
Well, it came out in 96, the year I got married. I didn't realize that you had to stay in high school that long, Matt.
Okay, I got the date wrong. I read a lot of Sagan's books back then.
That's what I got. Anybody else want to take a crack at this?
I've got 2.
All right.
William L. Shire's The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
Oh, great book.
Yeah.
and Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five.
Hmm.
First is because it shows you how easy a dictator can rise to power and how you have to stop him first. It was going up to Czechoslovakia in 1938. There were times when the democratic world was a huge advantage over Hitler, and they just gave it away. They had stood up in Czechoslovakia, he probably would have been overthrown in a coup in 1938, because the military didn't believe that they could win a war. Instead, it solidified his hold over the military. Slaughterhouse-Five. My father and I used to debate Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I can understand why Truman felt he had to do it. But the bombing of Dresden, which is covered in Slaughterhouse-Five, was horrendous. And madmen had organized it. Because when Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it was one bomb, one plane. The logistics that went into Dresden to suck the oxygen out of the air so it would kill as many civilians as possible. It's just pure revenge, mainly for the Blitz of London. But it was done by American and British planes.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Rick. Anybody else?
Well, I had thought about it a little earlier, and a totally different tack than what y'all are talking about. But the first adult book that I recall reading as a kid was Arthur C. Clarke's 2001: A Space Odyssey. I was 9 years old. I had watched the movie, and of course, it blew my mind. But I wanted that. I saw the book in the bookstore, and I wanted it so bad because I loved the movie. And my dad was like, "Well, you know, this is an adult book. You're going to have a hard time understanding it." And I didn't care. So he got me the book, and I read it at 9 years old, and it filled me with such a sense of wonder. And I mean, I guess you'd have to say it's a combination of the movie and the book put together, but to get a little more of the characterization, you know, the things that the book will convey that the movie would not. But that I probably credit that book more than any for setting me on a course of wanting to be a storyteller. And so that really brought me in a lot of ways to where I went as a writer.
Can I just jump in because, you know, real quick, because you are on a similar tack in a way. From the introduction to The Demon Haunted World by Sagan, my parents were not scientists. They knew almost nothing about science. But in introducing me simultaneously to skepticism and to wonder, they taught me the two uneasily cohabiting modes of thought that are central to the scientific method. In other words, a sense of wonder and awe at the universe. There's so many things to be in awe of. But at the same time, you know, you have a whole healthy dose of skepticism along with that. In other words, a sense of wonder and awe about the universe, but everything that you're in awe of, you've established with evidence.
You're not credulous,
right?
Necessarily, yeah.
So
question, sure.
Right. So sorry, I had to jump.
Quite all right. No, that was fine because I mean I pretty much said it there that
okay.
And so have at it.
Pete.
All right, so I have this massive Lovecraftian collection. You guys know about this. I also have a good collection of Nero Wolfe books and Chandler and Hammett and Mr. Moto and Charlie Chan. I love all that stuff. But what I don't talk about and what I don't really mention that often is I'm a big fan of James White's Hospital Stations novels. If you don't know these, James White was a Irish author, and he wrote a lot of science fiction in the 60s and 70s, and one of his ongoing series was set at this hospital station where it's a space station in the middle of nowhere that um is populated by some humans but a lot of aliens, and they serve as basically a hospital um for intergalactic travel, and they solve a lot of issues between species and whatnot just by simply being doctors. And it is oddly for me, who is huge on this whole Lovecraftian pessimistic outlook on the universe, James White's universe is completely the opposite. His basic premise is that if you're good to people and you take care of people, you will discover that people are generally good, and that aliens all have the same problems, and you can find a way to be kind to each other. And the fight, I write in my Lovecraftian corner of the universe, but I would love to live
Yeah,
in something like that.
that's well said.
And
Yeah.
it's just gorgeous. They're just fun reads, and a lot of them are fix-up novels. So they're written as short stories that were published in various magazines, and then he builds connective tissue between them, and you publish it as a novel. And if you look back at how I did Reanimators and the Weird Company, that's basically what I've done. So not only do I like reading this stuff, but it's also sort of a training manual for where I learned to write.
That's cool.
So, and and it's not just James. A lot of the writers in the 60s and 70s, when they had stuff published in magazines, would then, and they were ongoing series characters, they would eventually take all that stuff and do a novel with it, and it was called a fix-up. And it's a lot of people like James White did that. George R.R. Martin did that with a bunch of his stuff. Larry Niven, Frank Herbert, a lot of this stuff is how it was done originally.
Could I get that series title and author again?
James White,
Okay.
and the series Hospital Station.
Hospital Station.
I think it's 12 books.
Okay. I didn't know this about you. This is interesting.
Yeah, I don't talk about it that much because it's a very, very small corner of my collection, because he died
But
quite
it's had a huge impact, though.
But it had, yeah, it has, and he's a really kind of uplifting writer. One of his, I'm trying to remember the name of it. One of his other novels is called, hold on, oh, The Watch Below, and it is about aliens who come to Earth, but they're aquatic. So they don't contact anybody on the surface of the planet. Instead, they end up contacting the people that survived and are still alive in the Titanic.
Whoa.
And I just that's just fucking crazy, but it works. It's, and in many ways, it's sort of like a predecessor to what was the James Cameron film? Abyss.
The Abyss.
Like, we have
Good
no
movie.
interest in contacting anybody on the surface of the planet because we don't recognize them as like us.
Right. Star Trek 4. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you search out life that's like you,
Yeah.
right? Anyway,
Yeah, it's true. That's what you're looking for,
right,
because you don't understand how
right.
life can
Yes.
exist otherwise.
And this is why, you get, when Peter Watts writes about life, and we might not recognize it as life, and we might not recognize it as sentient. It's kind of fun, but yeah, James White, really good writer. very uplifting.
If I get Watts on the show, you think you can help lead that?
Yes, but I don't think you can get Watts on this show.
I think it'd be
he's-
very difficult.
Yeah.
No, he already told me he would when I was
Well,
ready for
okay.
him. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
He said yes.
I'd love.
I'd be very interested because this guy is a professional scientist, more like Pete. He is a biologist rather than someone who studies water chemistry. But all of his fiction was informed by his deep understanding of biology.
Yes.
I still think Starfish is one of the best Lovecraftian themed novels I've ever read.
Yes. Absolutely.
Didn't like the sequels, but you know, that was me. And Blindsight is one of the best first contact books I've ever read.
Right.
Yeah.
The TED talk that is still on his website about vampires
Yeah.
which is in universe to his stuff, is just terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And the terror has nothing to do with vampires. It has everything to do with corporate thought processes. Anyway.
Well, Peter told me that he's not going anywhere, and whenever I was ready to have him on, and
That'd be awesome because I don't think he's ever coming back to this country.
No, he had too many problems with the border patrol.
Yeah.
Actually got roughed up, I think.
Yep.
I would have
what's
liked
this?
to have been
What are you talking? What happened?
I'd like to have been a bug on the wall so I know what really happened. But apparently he was crossing from Canada to the US, I think, and came across a border agent with a chip on his shoulder, and I think ended up getting hauled out of his car and roughed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Christ.
Wow.
And then it just made him despise the US more, maybe.
Can't blame him.
Uh,
That's
Yeah.
pretty rough.
What was the guy's problem? Just
Well, the thing is, I don't remember the whole story, and I don't I believe that something bad happened. I'd really like to know what was said. It's like, I meant to say, excuse me, sir, I think there's been a misunderstanding. What I said was, leave me alone, you fat fuck. I don't know. But the thing about, it's kind of like really informed science fiction about gravity wells and all that has its own interest for reading, which is nothing like space opera. Well, he similarly has this same depth of understanding about biology and genetics and natural selection and all that. It just informs his writing. It's absolutely fascinating. I've just re-emphasized, if you haven't read it, pick up Starfish. You can get a used paperback cheap if you're impecunious.
all right. This is from
Get it from your
Wikipedia.
library.
In December 2009, Watts was detained at the United States border by U.S. Customs and Border Protection to perform a reportedly random search of the rental vehicle he was driving. Watts is alleged to have assaulted a CBP officer and was turned over to the local authorities to face charges. According to an officer, the authorities used pepper spray to subdue Watts after Watts became aggressive toward officers. According to Watts, he was assaulted, punched in the face, pepper sprayed, and thrown in jail for the night. The officer later admitted in court that he had punched Watts. A jury found Watts guilty of obstructing U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer. He faced a maximum sentence of 2 years in prison. Overkill much? Watts blogged about his sentence, saying that because of how the law was written, his asking, well, what is the problem, was enough to convict him of noncompliance. In 2010, he was given a suspended sentence and a fine. However, due to immigration laws, Watts' felony conviction prevents him from re-entering the United States. I don't find this hard to believe, because the one night in my life that I spent in jail, it was a similar situation with a state trooper.
You punched him?
No, and he
Okay.
didn't punch me, but basically, a friend and I went to a bar, and we didn't want to drive because driving drunk is not cool. Anyway, so we walked there. It was only about a mile away, and then we were walking home after the bar closed, and these guys pulled us over. And it's important to bear in mind that it's not like we were drunkenly singing, all the way home and waking up the neighbors. We were just walking, quietly talking until we got there. Our sin was essentially walking at night, because if you see two guys walking down the street in the day, you don't think anything of it, right? So who knows? Here's something good. I'll link to this because I can't read the whole thing. Peter Watt's letter of remorse to the Department of Homeland Security. There's a lot of, it looks like there's a lot of sarcasm here. To whom it may concern, I'm requesting and applying for a waiver to enable me to go to the United States of America. Describes the incident in more detail. In that spirit, I would like to express my sincere remorse that I have caused to re-enter the US, especially at a time when so many of your own countrymen appear to be going the other way. Perhaps you've heard that Immigration Canada's website crashed on the night of your recent election. This must be when Trump was elected. If you grant me the requested waiver, however, I can promise that I will not stay a moment longer than is absolutely fucking necessary. Sincerely, Peter Watts, PhD. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I
Why-
learned a
why-
lot today. I'll tell you that.
Why would he come back?
Yeah, so I don't know that much about this case, but I know a little about Customs and Border Patrol, and essentially, you have very, very few rights, either as an American or as a foreigner coming through Customs and Border Patrol. They can do whatever they want. You don't have a right to privacy. They can go through your phone. And look at anything they want. So it doesn't surprise me that something that Watts or anybody else might have thought of it being as an innocent offhand remark was taken as an escalation. And
Well,
it doesn't surprise me if these people took it that way very quickly.
well,
It's just the way
I-
life.
yeah, I hear what you're saying. None of this makes it moral, though.
No, it doesn't.
It sounds like naked exercise of power.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, this guy's brilliant. He's written some really brilliant stuff. If you've not read his work, maybe start with the two books that were mentioned and go from there. Blind Sight and you're shaking your head at me.
Yeah, you can say, go ahead.
Blind Sight. What was the other one?
Starfish.
Starfish. Yeah. What
Here,
do you-
Watts, I think his best piece of work ever is the short story Things.
Oh yeah, you can read that for free online.
And that is
Yeah,
a
that's a great one.
sequel or to The Thing, told from the point of view of the Thing.
It's a sidequel.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Isn't there an anthology coming out of fiction based on the thing?
Things.
Lord, I hope so.
There was one that came out a while ago
Maybe that
called
was it.
Things.
One that came
Yeah,
out with the original version of the thing.
No, there was
Frozen
a
Hell?
short,
Hell,
a short
It was a
story.
companion book. The original.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
It's what?
The companion book. What was the title of the
Frozen Hell.
Frozen
Yeah.
Hell? Yeah, it was a companion piece to Frozen Hell that Wildside Press put out.
Have you guys read
Yes.
Alan? Sorry, go ahead.
It has Things, I think, in the title.
Yeah,
Somewhere.
it does.
It's here. The Thing. Someone reviews by Alan Dean Foster. It says a serviceable expansion of the original Who Goes There short story told with economy and style by an experienced sci-fi author. Has anyone read the thing?
Yeah.
Alan Dean Foster's The Thing.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually got it on the shelf.
Right behind you.
Oh yes.
It's rather a bit of a rarity, right?
You know, though,
Yeah.
I think I'm not thinking of the same thing. Bob Eggleton did the art for a cover of a new anthology.
Well, there was a collection of art inspired by the thing,
Maybe that was it.
but I
And
think
there's
You
I
know
think
what?
the
I'll try and
Genesis
find
was-
it and I'll post it on the webpage later, the Facebook page.
Bronzo, you want to hit us with your books before we go?
Oh, I was just gonna say I thought about while you guys were going through it.
Mhm.
I'd have to say like Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee would be one. Because you're seeing it from the other side, not just what you learned in history class as a kid.
You know,
You
I
know,
see a
whole-
very similar theme running through the books that we've mentioned. Is it, of looking at things from in a different way.
It,
You know,
yeah, you're seeing. Yeah, I mean, it kind of gets like glossed over. Manifest Destiny. We moved westward.
Mhm.
We're seeing it from people of European descent, and then you see what happened to make that happen
Right.
and what took place. And it's a hard book to get through. Because you see, like, some books you read, you see the worst in humanity. And it makes you think, because it's just like I've thought about this many times. Like when you're a kid, you're very optimistic about the future and the human race. And then the further you get, the more you see, and you see the worst possible from people. And, the scale shifts. At least it has for me. So that's if you're going to read a book, that's a good one. Not good in what it's portraying, but,
Yeah.
it's just, that's how, when we got here and we got to the West Coast, there was somebody here before us. And, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Read the book.
I've often thought when you go outside, walk around, take a look around, and when you do, remember you're walking around in the aftermath of the end of the world, in the aftermath of an apocalypse. Because if you're walking around in America, excuse me, because it was the end of their world,
Yeah.
Did you guys ever read the science fiction book Sparrow?
by Maria
No.
Doria
Do
Russell.
not think
Yeah,
so.
okay. It puts you in a similar mind frame in that this ship of humans goes across to a distant world, and there are two life forms. One is a prey animal, and the other is a predator, and both are sentient. And the predator animal looks very similar to the prey animal because it evolved that way for concealment purposes. And so the predators are in charge of the society, and they're outnumbered by thousands to one. And when the humans arrive, it precipitates this kind of tsunami of change where suddenly the prey animals no longer are going to be prey, and they're going to run society. And they say, so you could think of it like when the Europeans came to North America, it was the best thing in the world that ever happened to Europe, giving them a place to expand, citizens a place to dream, go,
The new
create
world.
nations. And it was the worst thing that ever happened to the people who lived here.
Yeah.
So the idea here is this is the best thing that ever happened to the prey animals and the worst thing that ever happened to the predators at the same time. And
Reverse that, yeah.
Yeah, she has a sequel book where she explores that a little bit. I forget what it was called.
To your point, Mike, what you were saying, there's a quote, many quotes from the Matthew Scudder novels that I like, but here's one that pertains to this, or made me think of this quote, put it that way. It was easy to read the paper each day and conclude that humanity was infinitely worse than ever, that the world was going to hell, and that hell was where we belonged. Then when I read about men and women killing each other centuries ago for pennies or for love, I could tell myself that we weren't getting worse after all. We were as good as we'd ever been. On other nights, that same revelation brought not reassurance, but despair. We had been ever thus. We were not getting better. We would never get better. Anyone along the way who died for our sins had died for nothing. We had more sins in reserve. We had a supply that would last for all eternity. And I've depressed the fuck out of Pete.
It's yeah. Honestly,
Here to help.
no, I'm reminded that back in when the Matrix came out, there was this little throwaway line that said we based our simulation off of 1990s time frame because that was the
Yeah.
height of human civilization.
1999, baby.
And I'm sitting
And
there
we
thinking,
partied.
and now, and we all laughed at that, right? Because it was just like, oh yeah, because this is whatever. But now, there's a good chance that they might be right. That it's
Well,
all downhill from here.
It was before the towers. It was before school shootings were
Well,
and
I
prevalent.
wouldn't say that, but yes, okay.
1999. When was Klebold, and when did that happen?
What was the word you used?
Dylan Klebold and the other guy, the other kid.
Oh, okay, yeah, but
School shootings.
but schools,
Well, I don't like mentioning it.
School shootings and killings go back way farther than that. They're just
That's true.
they're
Not as
just
prevalent, perhaps.
well, yeah.
But anyway, that's an argument for another time. But yeah, 1999. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, so it's like
Also compared humanity to a virus.
Right now our technology is advancing very, very fast, and I'm not sure we can keep up. And I'm afraid that it might advance so fast that it destroys us.
Well, if we've cheered you up, please become a Patreon.
No, but I'm serious. It's like, like we're literally replacing artists and writers with
I agree. I don't disagree.
and I don't understand how society works without art.
Yeah, you can't enter a prompt and create art. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Or if you can and you call it art, there's something seriously wrong.
I mean, we've envisioned like the world being destroyed by robots that we made to fight our wars, or robots that we made to harvest our crops and do our shitty jobs around the house and all this stuff.
So that we could devote ourselves to the arts.
Right.
And
But
creativity.
we never imagined that we would just skip all that and go right to like replacing our arts. And like the problem with that is like artists secretly tell the truth about things.
Yeah.
And if we replace art and art becomes corporate art, then we lose the truth.
The world becomes like Wall-E. We're all just
Wall-E.
Yeah.
We're all just riding in our chairs at the by and large.
Right. I don't know how we do that. And maybe I'm just being old man yelling at clouds, but
no. Well, I mean, yes, but you're right about it, though.
It's, what's going to happen when we say art is produced by somebody who sits down at the computer and comes up with a prompt and 10 minutes later has the novel or the piece of art and then that's going to go up for sale. And
we're gonna teach you classes on how to be an artist and how you be an artist, how you become a successful artist, and how you produce great art is you become the person who comes up with the best prompt. Right?
Well,
the best AI prompt.
So, and I kind of, look, and so there's a local artist, Arthur Ansel. No, it's not Arthur. It's Clyde Butcher. And he uses an old glass negative camera. And he goes out and he stands in the swamp and he waits and he waits and he waits and he waits the clouds and the light and everything is perfect. And he's lucky if he gets one picture a day. But then you got another guy with a digital camera and a thumb. And they just put the camera out and they take 1 billion pictures in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And they find one. But
Right.
that's all they need to find, right?
Yep.
It's inspiring, whether it's art where you're drawing or painting or you're creating music or you're writing something, that a human had to sit down and construct that.
Yes.
They had to come up with it. They had to have the skills. They had to use their hands. That's not, just a computer going, boop, there you go. Because it's taking everything we've done and just popping it out.
Yeah.
There's nothing to that. It's soulless.
And
I
not
look
as
at an
only-
artist. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry I interrupted you, actually.
No, that's okay.
Well, the thing is, and it is soulless, but the other thing to remember about all this, if you start to think, well, these old guys are just shaking their fist at, and things change and you just got to deal with it. The thing is, the art that these AIs are creating is based on the work of real artists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what is being left out of the conversation a lot of the time.
And I think those artists should be compensated.
Not only
Yeah.
should they be compensated, but it should be recognized that AI didn't come up with shit. What they
Well-
did was they put a bunch of possibilities together from what they've learned from artists and what they've taken from artists.
I think the stance is that you can't copyright AI products, right?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
So
Well,
because
you
you
also
don't-
don't have to pay an artist.
right. So there's the flip side. You can't copyright it, but you don't have to pay for it either. So which is worth more?
There are some
Yeah.
tough questions that have to be answered, though. Here's one of them. Let's say you're and this is not my question, but since I've been in the business, it was a question that naturally occurred to me. Let's say you're a struggling small press, trying to get, and you pay your writers as fairly as possible, and they're happy with that. And you realize that you can pay your writers more if you use AI for the cover of the book instead of paying an artist.
Yeah, wrap it in brown paper bag instead.
Yeah, I don't agree with it, but these questions have to be asked and answered,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I see a terrible cycle in that you start replacing, we're talking about artists, but everywhere you look, AI, automation and everything, you're replacing people who contributed to the economy. So you're taking job after job after job, fewer and fewer people are making money. Who's going to be paying for this creation of any sort when the fewest possible people have any income? And
Well,
I don't see that being a long-term discussion anywhere. Maybe it's out there. I just haven't seen it.
there is a cartoon that I have at my office where there's two guys in a skyscraper, and one's the older CEO is sitting behind his desk looking at some papers, and there's a younger guy looking out the window at the city beyond. He says, based on today's reports, soon our products will be so popular and so expensive, only a handful of people will be able to afford them. And it's a wonderful day. And then the older CEO looks like, wait, what? Yeah, because you can't just sell to 5 people. You've got to sell to the masses. You raise a great point, Mark. You've got to be able to sell to people. People have to first. There has to be people. There have to be people, right?
Let's keep the people, sure.
2, you have to have something they want. And 3, they have to be able to afford it. There used to be a time when we didn't have leisure time or money. And, now we have leisure time and money, but the products are going to shit. Or they're becoming too expensive to buy. I don't know what we're supposed to do.
Well, all I know is this: no matter what the budget, when you pay, or excuse me, when you have AI produce your art of any sort, but sure, let's talk about this in cover art just as an example. You're profiting from all of the artists that AI stole from themselves, essentially. So, in other words, it's wrong.
Wasn't there a Black Mirror episode about the factory that just kept making stuff and delivering stuff to this little village that was all that was left of mankind? There's
I
like
haven't seen
there's like
Black Mirror.
500 people, and
either.
every day they would just get dozens of, a shipment from the Amazon factory. And they couldn't use it. It would be becoming a detriment to their lives. Anyway. All right, I'm done ranting.
All right. Well, that's what we're here for, to rant. So yeah, a lot of questions to be answered.
So we did find that the thing
See you, Mark. Thanks. We're
Yep.
gonna
See you,
finish up
Mark.
here too.
All righty. We'll see y'all later now.
the book I was talking about was The Things from Another World. It's a John Betancourt Kickstarter project that just finished, and the art's going to be by Bob Eggleton.
Nice. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, guys, thanks. Appreciate it.
Remember, there will be a prize if you want to win Last Road to the Backwoods. Send a email to ezineprizes@gmail.com and put Backwoods in the subject line. It'll be a couple months before we draw a winner, but who knows? It might be you.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. Please remember, if you like the show and you want to see it continue, become a patron. If everyone that listened actually was even a bottom level Patreon, I'd never have to worry about, paying the bills, and it's a consideration now. I'm not complaining. I love doing this, but yeah, so support the show if you can. And I appreciate all of you who do. And thanks guys for being here, and we'll see everybody next week.